Hi, my name is Tori McNeely, and I wanted to give a video tour of my ePortfolio as a culmination of my master's program in learning design and technology. I was able to do a dual concentration with e-learning design and development as well as game-based learning analytics. The home page includes an About Me section, which lists my educational background, work and learning experiences, professional goals, as well as my vision for the future. We're going to move into the AECT standards in which I describe each one, and I'm going to show each one in depth, including their substandards, and how I was able to meet each one of the AECT standards, and include artifacts that demonstrate my knowledge and skills of each one. So let's go ahead and start with standard number one. Standard number one deals with content knowledge. I picked three substandards to display this. The first substandard was creating. Within my digital media and learning course, for my final project, I created an interactive Nearpod lesson. That Nearpod lesson included a variety of instructional materials and approaches for students. The Nearpod lesson focused on the connected learning theory, so it talked about the three crucial contexts and learning experiences and tools in order to promote connected learning within a classroom setting. So, within the Nearpod course, I included things such as Padlets, open-ended discussion questions, Flipgrid video responses, e-learning videos with checkpoint questions, links to interest-based learning articles and EdTech tool articles, interactive collaborate discussion boards, digital videos, lots of different tools and ways for students to interact with the lesson. So this artifact is a perfect example of designing instructional materials that meet the level of learners and using a variety of different softwares to do so. The next substandard I chose was Substandard 3, Assessing and Evaluating. Within my Development of Technology-Based Instruction course, I worked with a small group to create an e-learning game. After the creation of that e-learning game, we had usability testing, one-on-one alpha testing, and then later beta testing. I was the one to conduct the beta testing for my group. I did so with a group of 6th and 7th graders at my IB international school. The students consisted of bilingual and multilingual students. And I provided them the game to play on their one-to-one MacBook devices. And then I provided them a link to a Google survey form that we created in order to gain feedback about the effectiveness and the learning of the game. So within my artifact, I described the population and I included the improvements and future iterations that we would make to the game based off of the beta testing survey results, which are also shown in the form of graphs and tables for their open-ended responses from the students. This was a great artifact to show how we were able to use these assessment items and make changes to our game based off of them. And then we have substandard for managing. I chose to use my e-learning project plan from my technology project management course. Essentially, I was able to create this plan about a kindergarten e-learning phonics game, and I included various aspects within the plan to show that I was effectively able to manage people, processes, and resources. So the plan includes lots of things such as a communication plan for when we would contact team members and stakeholders. It also shows resource planning regarding those team members that are included and also the equipment and development resources that we're using as well. I also included an in-depth review about the e-learning course, what the objectives would be, the content of the course, and the project timeline, basically listing the milestones for the estimated completion of this project, who was responsible for each portion, and how long that would take. We also included KPIs, so key performance indicators regarding budget, time management, and the quality of the game. I did a breakdown of the budget in order to show the creation, production, quality control, and the project management cost, including the authoring software that would have to be used to create this game, and included a schedule, a visual schedule to break down the um, timeline frame of how long it would take to produce this game or create the project. So it went more into depth about various elements, but that was a great representation of Substandard 4. Now let's move on to Standard 2. Fin Standard 2, again, I chose three substandards to show how I displayed my knowledge of content pedagogy. Substandard 1, creating. I was able to apply my content knowledge from my digital video course and make a YouTube banner tutorial video. So essentially, I was using screencast software to make this tutorial video in order to show students in the class how to create a banner to add to their YouTube page. I use the Loom screencast software and I use Canva to design the banner. And then I showed how to adjust the size and add it to your YouTube channel. So that was a great artifact demonstrating how I was recommending certain instructional medias and my understanding of video production and post production tools in order to provide students with a digital video editing technique. The second substandard was using, and I decided to showcase the e-learning middle school science game that I created with my group. We did use Articulate Storyline 360 to create this game. And we implemented a lot of elements of middle school science, physical science standards and the curriculum within the game. So everything was based off of content. Essentially, students were able to test liquids for their density, temperature moderation, cohesion, solubility, and pH balance in order to determine which liquid was most like water. We did this in a space themed setting, and I included the work that I did, a part of my group, to create this game. It was fabulous. We developed all the course materials ourselves, and you can go ahead and take a look at that if you would like. And then we have Substandard 5, Ethics. And so I decided to showcase the journalistic documentary I used for the final project of my digital video course. Within that documentary, I interviewed various expat teachers from around the world, from Ireland, South America, and Germany. And I really felt like that was a great representation of the diversity of our society as a multicultural community. And within this, I learned how to develop storyboards, write scripts, and again, understand more about video production. So let's move on to standard number 3 that deals with learning environments, creating, using, evaluating, and managing effective learning environments. The first substandard I chose was creating. I decided to use my e-learning elementary math game as the artifact to showcase how we use learning principles and research-based best practices to create this e-learning game. We ended up using the systematic evidence-centered design model in order to create this school snack shack game. And essentially, students were able to practice their operations and algebraic thinking within this meaningful context as they sold snacks to customers. And so we built the game using Construct 3, and we included a lot of different game mechanics, dynamics, and focused on the cognitive gameplay. So I included a brief tour of the game and an interactive tutorial of how it went. This was a great representation of us being able to design this for different level of learners and how we specifically selected interactions and user control techniques to our target audience. I also included a list of tasks that I completed within the semester to show what I worked on throughout the game design. Next, I'll focus on Substandard 2, using. And so, a great example of this would be the storyboard that I created for my group when we were making our middle school science e learning game. I think this was a great representation of making sound decisions for selecting various resources and processes to create the game. So, I included a link to the full storyboard, which includes images, narration scripts that I wrote, on screen text, description of user interactions. I also then finalized the storyboard once we started making the prototype and was able to include screenshots of the actual game within Storyline 360 that we started to create. But that was a great representation of that. And then Substandard 6, diversity of learners. I ended up including 3 different reviews of when I had my students play test the elementary math school game as a part of the game design course that I took. And I was the one in my group that had a grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 student test out this game. All 3 students come from diverse backgrounds. None of them were non-native uh, English speakers. Most of them spoke Arabic as their first language. Some were bilingual, some were trilingual students, and they all had varying levels of English proficiency as well as mathematics proficiency. And again, they were also in different grade levels. So I felt like that was a great representation of the diversity of learners that were able to play test this game and showcase their abilities. It also helped us to gain some feedback in order to make changes, revisions to our game based on for the feedback that I collected during this evaluation. And then I included the playtest report, specifically the results of the Think Aloud that my students did, and also links to each one of the videos, but they're up here anyways. Now let's move on to standard number 4. Standard number 4 deals with professional knowledge and skills. For Substandard 1, collaborative practice, I decided to use the example of an e-learning Canvas course I created with a small group of students when I took problems in instructional design for computers. Recreated this course in order to teach teachers, specialists, and instructional coaches within Hillsborough County the background knowledge and skills that they would need if they had to effectively teach students online. And so we use the SAM method in order to create the instructional design plan, storyboard, our prototypes, everything to create this course. I've listed the 6 modules of the course, and I included for the artifact a tour of the course and also a link for you if you would like to enroll in the digital course to walk through it yourself. I also included a document listing who did what in the creation of our game throughout the course. But this was a great example of how we worked together to develop and design instruction for our target audience. Next, we have Substandard 4.3, reflection on practice. I decided to use my e-learning game review that I created during my game analytics course based on the Skylab Search for Water Mission Science game that I created with a small group of students within another course. And so essentially, I took the game that we created and I looked at the results of our usability testing, alpha testing, beta testing, and I did a full analysis of the game. And I included a presentation and my final paper regarding the analysis of the game so that you could see how I was able to identify some discrepancies based on the analysis of the data collection and include recommendations and suggestions for further improvements and iterations of the game. That was just a great example to show how I'm still building my professional growth in terms of design and development. And last, we'll have Substandard 4.4, assessing and evaluating. I decided to use materials for my problems in instructional design course. As a group, we built an e-learning course via Canvas, and I included our front-end analysis and the instructional design proposal that we created as a group, as I felt that it really was a great artifact to demonstrate how we were able to align the learning goals and instructional activities with various assessments and evaluation plans before we began the construction of our game. And last, we have Standard 5. Um, this deals with research, and I chose two substandards about this. The first one was Theoretical Foundations. In my motivational design course, I created a presentation for my final project um, where I went into depth about my foundational knowledge of everything learned within the course and the educational theories regarding motivational design. Essentially, I identified the learning setting as a hybrid kindergarten class during the global pandemic and developed some motivational um, design concepts for how we were going to plan student assessment within this context. So I included my presentation and proposal for that. And then for Substandard 5.2 about method, as my artifact, I included the research paper I did for my Foundations of Educational Research course as my final project. This was a study that I wanted to propose using augmented reality software in order to teach my kindergarten students their phonics skills, but being able to participate in kind of a multi-sensory learning experience in order to really increase their engagement and spark new learning. And so I included my paper for that. Next, we'll move on to the reflection. Overall, I've learned a lot within my learning design and technology program. I've put a lot of hard work and effort into all of the artifacts that you'll see here in my ePortfolio. I would recommend that you save all of your work, especially if you're working in a group project. Make sure you're backing up your files, even using an external hard drive, in order to keep everything that you create, because you never know when you would need to use something as a work sample or reference it in a job interview or when using it as an example during a coaching session, or whatever the case may be. But basically, back up all of your projects. And also, don't underestimate yourself. At the beginning of this course, at the beginning of this program, I didn't have very many skills in design or development at all. But I've gained so much knowledge and experience throughout this program using different authoring software systems and um, instructional multimedia content creating softwares and lots of different things. And really, I'm extremely proud of how much growth and development that I've made. My perspective on technology has changed a lot. I do know that when it comes to redesigning our school system, it's not just based on integrating or incorporating technology. And so it really gave me a wider view or perspective on next steps for the future of education. I am still left with a lot of questions still that I will have to continue conducting research and learning things on my own after the conclusion of this program. But it was very eye opening, and I was able to gain a ton of experience. I did include my resume on my ePortfolio website. So if you would like to contact me, I am reachable by email as I am an international educator and my phone number is consistently changing. So, email is the best way to reach out. I also included a hyperlink to my LinkedIn page if you would like to contact me on there. But thank you so much for viewing my ePortfolio. I truly appreciate it.